Hello YouTube, welcome back to the garage, and welcome back to the Goldwing project. In this video, we're going to turn the bike back into a roller. Basically, I want to finish the front wheel, get the discs installed, and then get it back on. In order to do that, I've got a little bit more cleaning to do. Then I've just got to put the discs on, torque them down. I want to clean up the calipers, make sure that there's no leaks or anything, make sure they're just a little bit nicer, because I mean, you touch it and there's stuff on you, so I just want to clean up a bit more, get it back on, and then hopefully get the bike back on its wheels. I'm not exactly sure how, but it seems the audio was lost. I haven't experienced this before. Hopefully I don't run into this issue again, but basically I'm explaining I just removed the discs from the front wheel when I sent it off to get the tire mounted, because I've heard bad stories about the discs getting damaged by, whatever minimum wage tire tech is doing it, and that gave me the opportunity to clean them up nicely, and then also the hardware there, I cleaned them up with a wire wheel, and you could see that there's a bit of discoloration. That's from, rust, and so I'm going to put some anti-seize on the hardware, and then now I'm saying that there was a little gasket surface type thing, but on removing the disc, it kind of disintegrated. The other side is okay, but this side, it tore apart, so I just remade it with some gasket paper. And then also, I'm just going to use some blue Loctite on the brake hardware, and I believe those were torqued down to 22 foot-pounds. Alright, so that is all done. Both discs are mounted and torqued to spec. Everything's clean and ready to go back on. But actually, before I do that, I pulled off the clutch lever. Here's the original one, and hopefully you can see that that bronze-colored bushing in there. That's quite ovaled out, and I ordered a new one online, pretty cheap, secondhand, and that bushing is not ovaled. So I'm just going to swap that out. First, I'm gonna clean it. But I'm just going to swap that right onto the bike and get it out of the way. Okay, so that is fixed. If you remember, this thing was really squeaky when you would pull it, but not anymore. There's a little bit of slop in there. I can't remember if it was like that before or not, but either way, it's so much smoother than it was before, and I call this a win. You might have seen that there's a component that was sticking out. I think this lever was off of an Interstate model or something like that, not the Aspencade, so I guess there's a slight incompatibility there, but like you saw, I just took a second to saw that off, and fits just as if it were meant to be. I believe that was the only difference, so yeah, that's one less thing I gotta worry about. On the brake lever side, there's a nut that goes under the pivot bolt, I guess to kind of lock it in place, but I didn't have one. However, it's a common thread, so I will try my best not to forget to install one of those before I go riding again. Another thing is there's this much movement before I start feeling the clutch do something, and again, I don't remember if it was like that or not before, but I guess we'll have to see when I take it out for the first ride. Okay, so now we're going to see about getting the wheel back on. So installation is basically the reverse of removal. So the first thing I'm going to do is wheel the wheel under the forks and slide the axle through. Okay, so I've got the wheel in, and the axle holder guys just loosely hand tightened on there, and I forgot something, and that is that the axle has to be tightened to 44 foot-pounds, and the way you do that is there's a flat spot on this side, just grab it with a wrench, and then obviously the nut over here. You really should do this before you put you put it back on the bike, just because it makes it so much easier, but well, I forgot, so I have to do it like this. So once your axle is torqued and it's mounted in the forks, the last thing you have to make sure is that the speedometer has a little boss cast into it, and there's a matching thing on the left side fork, and you just want to make sure that that's behind, back here, just so that it doesn't spin. And once you're sure of that, you can tighten up the nuts to 18 foot-pounds. Alright, so there you go. The next step would be to put the calipers back on. Once you got the wheel in and everything, the first thing you're going to want to do is just get your bracket mounted. That goes right here, and then there's an Allen that goes there. Take out those two bottom bolts, and then you're going to swing the caliper over and mount it onto the bracket. So once you mount the bracket here with that Allen, you're going to want to pass one of the bolts through here for the anti-dive, just the one that mounts to the fork, and leave the other one just kind of hanging and have the bolt on standby. Then don't forget to put your pads in, and then what you're going to want to do is put this movable bolt in. You want to grease it up so that it moves nice and smoothly. Also, don't forget to put your brake hose in, but you want that to be nice and fluid and easy to move. And then get the caliper on with that one, and then you can just kind of hinge it into place and secure it here. And once you're done, it should look something a little like this. And basically these two are going to be torqued down to 17 foot-pounds, and this one to 20. And this guy, the Allen, should be torqued down to 25. And once everything is torqued down, you're done on the one side. You just gotta repeat on the other side. And here on the left hand side, the only thing that's different compared to the other side is you have the speed sensor. And if you remember, that's just one Phillips under here with a speedo drive, and according to the diagram, the wire should run up over here. There should be a bracket. I'm appear to be missing it, but the wire runs up here and up with the brake line. And yeah, once you've got the speed sensor mounted and the wire run, you can see that I changed my mind about where I ran it, because for one reason or another this wire is super long, and if I routed it the quote-unquote correct way, there would have been like almost a foot, like literally a whole foot extra of wire length. But anyway, once that's run, once the wire is routed, that's it. You're pretty much done up front. So now that I'm done with the front brakes, I'm gonna dive into the rest of the bike while I'm still waiting for the rear suspension parts. So off camera, I just kind of took a whole bunch of stuff apart. So let me talk to you about that a little bit. So I was just kind of looking around down here, and I noticed that this plastic piece on top of the intake plenum, it's kind of loose. There was a gap there, and I'm thinking that's an air leak of some sort. So I went in, I wanted to check the air filter anyway. So I took apart this area, and turns out this piece of plastic that I was seeing has been modified by a previous owner, I guess. It's kind of cut down the middle. I don't know why or how this is like this, but I mean, it is what it is. I looked online, and this part is not readily available, which is unfortunate. I saw some expired listings that were putting this piece around 30 bucks, which is not horrible, but the thing is that those are expired and I can't really find any right now. So I'm probably just gonna have to patch this up as best that I can and put it back together as is. Another thing is the throttle, if you remember, was super sticky. Like it wouldn't spring back at all. Turns out there's a whole bunch of extra length here, at least what I think is extra length. I can't imagine that they would have this much extra stock, but this was all kind of tucked up into the fairing here, and I just pushed it through, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to shorten this cable somehow, but I mean, it would be nice to get rid of that extra friction. I mean, it's working as a throttle again, but it's still a little stickier than I would like it to be. Then up front, I removed the windshield so I could clean it, as well as this chrome piece, and that revealed this wire that was just kind of chilling here on the cowl. It had a piece of electrical tape on it, and I thought it was some kind of temperature sensor or something like that, but when I took the tape off, I saw that it was literally just a wire that was cut, and I followed it back, and it is spliced into this plug, which goes to the clock on the cowl right here. And yeah, I have no idea what this is about, or why, or how, or, you know, it's just weird. A lot of weird things that I'm learning about this bike. I don't know if I'm going to cut that or just leave it as is. Don't know yet. And lastly, right here, this panel had a little volume control for the radio, but also it was kind of the hub for the intercom. This bike stock has like an intercom system where the rider can talk to the passenger and listen to the radio and things like that, but I use a Cardo, so I don't really need that. So I just wanted to delete that because there was a couple of lines running the length of the bike, and I don't need it, so I just wanted to get rid of it. So here's that panel. It's here. Unfortunately, the panel's a little bit broken on my bike, but this lower box is that. I'm probably just gonna literally remove it because I don't need it. This top box, I believe, is part of the radio, so I'm probably gonna leave it. And then also the gas cap. I was experiencing what seems to be a common problem among these bikes, but when I take off the gas cap, there's a pressure release, and people on the forum say basically just take your gas cap off and soak it in some sea foam for like 24 hours. So that's what I'm doing right now, just letting that soak. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end this episode. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you found this a little interesting, seeing, you know, under the skin of a Goldwing. Hopefully you learned a little something about the front wheel and the brakes of these bikes. And yeah, so like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.